Our next speaker is Kate Wilson from She Is Bossing It. She's the CEO of She Is Bossing It, and I'll hand over to her because I'm going to tell you all of the story before she does.
Right, okay. Thanks. Well, when you said the inspirational one, I was like, who's up next? So thanks very much for that. I think it's a big ask after Rhiannon. I think you've got great public speaking skills. I was listening and laughing along with you, so that was brilliant. So I'm going to talk a bit about, first and foremost, what She Is Bossing It is, because I'm sure you're all thinking, what on earth is that? Ultimately, I'm the founder of it. What happened was I'm ex-police. Got a story a bit like Rhiannon's, want to try different things. I did my master's, I carried on studying, I've got 3 daughters, and it just wasn't for me anymore, lifestyle-wise. So with that, I went into cybersecurity, and we'll bring this all back to sport, so don't worry too much. But yeah, cybersecurity, and these worlds are very much, male-dominated. From the age of 19, I was in male-dominated environments. At one point, I was the only female on the riot squad, and I have to say I was treated very well, which is to a lot of people's surprise. I think, oh, those sort of areas will be where you would face your sexism, your unconscious bias, and all that types of things. I didn't. I think I had to pass all the tests that the lads passed even. Very much we had a cohesive team. There was a lot of team banter, a bit like there is in sport, and we were very much a unit. But what I did see coming out of that, going into be the detective and then going into the corporate world, is that there was a lack of confidence amongst females, but also that I did face unconscious bias. For example, I said to somebody I wanted to go for promotion, and they said, no, you don't, because you've got young children. And I thought it was very nice of them to tell me what I wanted when I didn't really know them that well. But ultimately, these terms and things that we get told that we want to do, almost conditioned in some respects, stood out to me, and they began to build up. And there's a bit of a theme, really. When I would go in and mentor people, they'd say, oh, I wish I could do that. And when I was saying, well, why can't you? You can. Often they go, no, I can't. And I'd say, but why? And then there'd be a pause. And sometimes I don't think we know the answer. And that's what I found. It's very much around confidence. And the sad thing for me is that we're seeing a lot of talent in the workplace, in conversations that are having outside of the workplace as well. And a lot of really unhappy people, not fulfilled in their careers. And why I think that's important is because from the age of 5, I'm sure you've all been asked, or your children have been asked, what is it you want to be when you grow up? We say that we're not, don't identify as your career. And in COVID times, I wrote a piece, it was an article the year I lost my identity, and struggled with anxiety. And the reality was I felt invisible. I'd gone from sort of a high-powered, very, authoritative sort of role, being in the office amongst people, to then being at home. And my daughters won't mind me saying it, but feeling like a stay-at-home mum. And that's okay if that's your choice, but that doesn't fulfill me. And that wasn't great from a mental health perspective. Then finding my feet again, getting back in the workplace, when we're all out and about, connecting again, finding purpose through my career and through my writing, really sort of made me think, I hope there's a way I can help other people. And I found that the mentorship in the workplace has changed post-COVID. But yet I'm saying a lot of the same things to the same people and to mentees around confidence, and the themes coming back are imposter syndrome, even as much as I was talking to one of my friends who's on the call today, even as far as communication, but not so much verbally. How do we write emails? How do we influence through writing as much as we do verbally? And so what I've seen is sort of a gap in the market. For me, a lot of, and hopefully you'll agree, but a lot of the material out there, particularly aimed at women, I don't think is particularly engaging. I think that it is quite outdated, and it almost puts us in a box of, a typical woman, let's just put it like that. So I really wanted to create an engaging, high energy sort of platform where we can get messages out, into style as such, around sort of research behind imposter syndrome, how we can communicate and the power of body language, and all those types of themes, and really encourage people to transition career. And Rhiannon, it's great actually to follow you, because you're a prime example of how you've followed your passion and know that actually you can pick up pharmacy back if you chose to, when you come to retirement later down the road. And I think that's really important. We don't have to stay in the same sort of career. So similar to Lindsay, for me, it's not men versus women. We've heard stories today where, again, Rhiannon, to keep picking on you, but you've mentioned two male names there, and it was very, about them supporting you and actually seeing your potential and pushing you forward. And that's the same for me. It would be hypocritical for me to say that it's a men versus women issue, because my greatest mentors and supporters have very much been men. And I value that, and I do value the different perspectives and the way that I've been treated. But I have faced bias, unconscious and conscious. So I think, the issue for me is multifaceted. There's a lot about environment, there's a lot about psychological, physiological differences. But what I really built She's Bossing It, which is very early days and I want to develop, is really helping people to step into their power, grow personally and professionally. And why I think both of those come hand in hand is because we're very much holistic beings. We see a lot of information and create some great stuff there on fitness and well-being. We even see columns on star signs. We see columns, with the magazines on romance. Yet careers are really impactful on us. They provide us with financial freedom, fulfillment, purpose. We don't see as much of the help, the help and support around careers, and really putting it at the forefront of where I think it is nowadays, particularly for 21st century women, if we term it that, because, as I say, from school, we pick topics for GCSEs. What is it you want to be? We go to university, we pick, we'll study around what it is we want to be. So for me, there needs to be a much more focus to help people feel fulfilled and as I say, step into their power. So that's a bit of context really about the She's Bossing It, and where does sport come into that? So I mentioned I was policing for 14 years and then went into the security industry. And what stood out for me really was there's a lot around law enforcement, military support programs, particularly around the career transition. So bringing military in, once they decide to leave the military, coming into the workplace. And often it is, within the security industry particularly, very supported, it's very welcomed. And what I see from personal experience is that a lot of these females, they thrive in their environment. And one night I was thinking, why is this? And for me, it's a mission-based mindset, right? So which that term comes from the military. Same with law enforcement. And then I've grown up through sport. It isn't boxing, I am sorry, it is netball, but that's just as fun. No, it's probably not as fun. But ultimately, I grew up in a sport and I played for Wales, but had to come to a decision where I wasn't getting paid to play. And actually, it was a choice between the Commonwealth at the time versus my career. And I was getting paid to police, and at that time I wasn't allowed to leave to go into the to go to the Commonwealth Games. So it was a big for me, it was a big moment where I had to choose career versus sport, and because of the finances, I chose my career. But what I recognise is a lot of skills really that transferable that come from sport that have put me into sort of the policing in the domain that I'm in. And also where I look at talent, and when I speak to a lot of the girls that I mentor, what I've seen is that correlation between actually, if they're not ex-military or ex-law enforcement, and often those females do play sport as well, that actually they've got a sporting background. It may not be elite, it may not be pro, but they've played sport from a young age. And so to back that up, there's some statistics recently that I will read because to make sure that we've got the right statistics. But women only make up 28% of C-suite roles, right? And this was a McKinsey research report. 6% are women of colour, which is even worse. Actually, when we look into the corporate space, it's not reflective of the workforce at the lower ranks, if you want to call it that. So then why is it that these females aren't getting to the top? A lot of that is to do with environment as well as, sort of equality policy from my observation. And again, around confidence, around going for these opportunities. Then we've got the statistic of, so if we bear in mind 28% have been successful. Another report said that 94% of female C-suite execs played sport when they were younger. So that really does scream out that, there's a reason. 94 of those execs played sport, so there must be a positive correlation. There must be something behind that. And for me, it's around the sort of skills, the transferable skills that it breeds. So there's another worrying statistic around young people in 20s. I don't know if anybody had heard this research report. It was out last week, actually. It made the news. But young people in the 20s are more likely to be out of work because of ill, and it was ill health, but more on the wave of sort of ill mental health. And that did affect and impact girls more than it did boys. There was research around that. And then there's research from a Dove and a Night campaign, which found that 45% of teenage girls are dropping out of sport, and that's twice the rate of boys. So for me, there's some positives in there, but there's definitely that correlation of the fact that, we've got young people dropping out of sport, and then we've also got young people that are struggling in the workplace. And the observation that I've seen, and I've had many conversations about that, is around resilience and lack of resilience. So for me, sport is a safe space that breeds resilience. It's a safe space for failure. It breeds skills that are often termed soft skills. To me, they're power skills now. Adaptability, perseverance, teamwork, communication. And there's a TED talk, and it dawned on me this morning, actually. There's a TED talk by a lady called Amy Cuddy. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's about power posing. And it's about when we go for jobs or, we're interviewing about body language, positive body language. And again, it dawned on me, I don't think you would ever get into a fight and try and make yourself look small. If you took the court in netball, it was about presence. Everything's about presence. You naturally stand up taller. I think in sport, it's you do that naturally. And if you don't do it, your coaches will pick up on it. It's about that feedback loop as well from a coaching perspective. So all these skills for me are extremely, extremely valuable. And it's where sport for me has sort of broader societal impact. So yes, it is around influencing change, and we've got some great names who've joined the call. I've just seen Natasha's joined the call. Real positive role models, and we need them. Not only for the girls that want to go and be elite or professional in their sport, but we need those positive role models for girls to see that, to look up to and think, I want to be involved in sport. And that's where Women in Boxing does a great job. It's not just about if you're the athlete, it's about, the support functions, are the careers around being a promoter, Lindsay, in all these types of roles. It's not just about the athlete as such and wanting to be a pro. It's about grassroots level as well. So the takeaway really for me is initiatives like Women in Boxing. Yes, it's fantastic for women in boxing. It absolutely is needed in this industry, but it's also needed from, again, that societal aspect, because sport really does help people thrive in their careers, build confidence and help them sort of step into the power. So that's it really for me, and where the correlation comes from She's Bossing It, and why I think it is just so important to support female athletes and all the initiatives ongoing around sport.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kate.